Welcome back to part 5 of this Power Platform ALM video series. So in the last video, we ultimately created our zipped managed solution, which is being referred to in Azure DevOps as an artifact. And we're going to take that artifact and we're going to push that into environments such as test and production. So on the left, rather than click on pipelines, once within your Azure DevOps project, we're going to click on releases. Once we've clicked on releases, it is still essentially a pipeline, just a different type. We're going to click on new pipeline. You can see here the key difference between this and the pipeline is that you can have stages. So if you imagine you could have stage gates where you move it through to test, there's some sort of testing period and approval, and then it could go to production. We also see that there's a section for artifacts, which is where we'll be making use of the output of the pipeline that we created in part 4. So for the artifact, actually, so if we just come back, I'm going to click into the add an artifact. It's of the type build, and we're going to choose the pipeline that created it. So it's not our export Power Platform Test Studio from development, it's our build managed solution. We'll leave the rest as per the defaults, and then we'll click add. Although you may want to rename this. So I'm actually just going to call this build. Now, in terms of stages, we're going to click add a stage. We're going to do this as an empty job, similar to what we've done before. I'm going to call the stage test, but you could call it whatever you want. I'm going to close this down, and then I'm going to click on this little hyperlink here where it says 1 job, 0 task. And this is where we're essentially back in familiar territory. So again, we're going to make use of the solution name variable. So we're going to populate that. And for this example, it's Power Platform Studio. We're then going to come back on over into tasks. Again, like with all the other pipelines, the first task we're going to need is to make available the Power Platform build tools. And we can do that by utilizing the Power Platform tool installer task. No additional configuration required. The next key element is essentially, now we've got the artifact, all we need to do is import it. So the next one we're going to make use of is the Power Platform import solution. However, as we can see here, some settings need attention that we will need to populate. So this is where we're going to need to make use of another service connection, because we've got our one for development, we've got our one for build, but we now want one for test. So I'm going to click new. And to help us populate this, I'm going to come to the Power Platform Admin Center by going to aka.ms/ppack. Once within the Power Platform Admin Center, we're going to click on Environments on the left. Once the environments have loaded, we're going to select the environment in question, which for us is test. Once the environment details have loaded, we're then going to copy the org URL. Or I sometimes just like to think of it as the CRM URL. So we're going to copy this. And we're going to populate that with the server URL. I don't know if you saw in part 4, this went a bit wrong because I put in HTTPS and it had doubled up on it, and that was causing all sorts of issues. Next, for the tenant ID, I'm going to come to portal.azure.com, and I'm going to go to app registrations. I'm going to locate Power Platform Service, and I'm going to make use of the directory tenant ID, but we could have gone into Azure AD equally. We're also going to make use of the application ID, and I'm just going to quickly create a new secret because I've not actually got that to hand anymore, but that would be less of an issue if we stored it in an Azure Key Vault. Okay, so now we have those details populated. We're going to give the service connection a name. And I cannot think whether I use spaces, which is why I should really have a consistent naming convention, but we certainly want to denote the environment. So we're going to do -test. And we're going to ensure that we click on grant access permission to all pipelines, although I suppose technically it wouldn't necessarily be all pipelines. Yeah, I didn't do it without spaces. So now we've got development, build, test. We're importing into test. That's the environment we need to make the connection to. Again, as mentioned in a previous video, you could specify an environment URL here, but we're going to do it from kind of automatically based on the connection. For the solution input file, we're going to use this. So default working directory, build, drop, which is where the artifact will be, solution name, which we're going to get by way of the variable we created, and then underscore managed, which is what it will be to denote that it's been exported as managed. We should be fine to leave everything else as is. I'm actually going to call this release Power Platform Test Studio, because if you can imagine, you've got this for multiple solutions to test. Click save. Okay. Just in the breadcrumb across the top, I'm just going to click on releases. And then in the top right, I'm going to click on edit. So we've got our one job with the 2 tasks. Let's just do a quick sanity check to make sure everything's okay. Confirm we've got our variable. And a massive step I am actually missing is we will want to come into settings in our test environment, users and permissions, application users, set up application user, add an app, select the Azure app registration, add, select our single business unit, edit security roles, select system administrator, and then click save, and then finally create. So we're now going to, in the top right, we're going to click on create release. Just double check. Stages for a trigger change from automated to manual. We are going to be kicking this off manually at the moment. Just going to select this and then click create. So if we just take it back a stage to releases, this is our main template, if you will, and obviously as time goes on, we can have multiple releases. And because we've done it manually, we're going to click into this particular instance of the release, and then on the essentially the stage that's actually going to do something, we're going to click on deploy, and then deploy again. And if we click into here, we should be able to see what the job's doing. And similar to the other pipeline view, we might have to wait a while whilst it's queued before it actually kicks in. Although it looks like we don't have to wait too long. So hopefully, with a bit of luck, or more importantly, that we've configured everything correctly, this should work. So it's successfully done the Power Platform tool installer, which is great. We can see that it's successfully authenticated in the Power Platform import solution step, which is great. And then the bulk of the time is going to be spent on the actual importing of the solution. So just whilst we wait for it to have a think about that, we're going to come to powerapps.microsoft.com. And we're going to get into the context of our test environment. And then once within the context of our test environment, we're going to click on Solutions in the left. And then we're going to look at history. And we can see that's succeeded, and we can see an import job as well for today, depending on when you're watching the video. So yeah, I mean, that all seems to work well, but the real power comes in when you combine your releases with multiple stages or steps, if you will. So we'll leave that there. That's job done for this video. Thank you for watching.